Hello everyone. Welcome to this edition of EDUPATH series, where we have a conversation with achievers of different walks of life. This powered by expert group of institutions, Alumni Association. And in today's session, we have somebody who has achieved lots of success in the field of digital systems. The buzzwords these days, the days of IT technology, are words such as AI, such as blockchain, robotics, etc., etc. And we have somebody who has spent almost 2 decades in the field of digitalization, someone who has helped many a Fortune 500 companies to earn millions of revenues. And to capital, he has a master's, he has a MBA degree from Oxford University as well. We are honored and very glad to have you, sir, Mr. Madhu Hosadurga. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Shyam. First of all, thank you for giving me this forum to speak to the future leaders of India, right? The students of experts. So thanks to you and your administration for this opportunity.
Thank
Yep.
you, thank you, thank
Please
you, sir. Thank you
let us
for
go ahead. Yep.
accepting the offer. And before we could proceed further, let me take this opportunity to just briefly introduce Mr. Madhu, sir. He actually has a BE from VTU and also an MBA, as I said, from Oxford University. And he started his career as Six Sigma analyst in General Electric in 2002. And in 2006, he joined Wipro Technologies as practice director, analytics and information management for Europe and UK. He was involved in helping clients such as Tesco, Morrisons, Nestle, DHL, and many more in developing analytical solutions and was responsible for more than $25 million revenue for these companies. And in 2014, he founded Oxalytics Consultancy Services, offering consulting solutions services to many large customers such as Transport of London, MSC TCL in the area of machine learning, and within a span of just 2 years, he generated a revenue of more than $2 million in that particular startup. And in 2016, he joined Wipro Technologies as an analytics consulting partner, helping many a Fortune 500 organizations such as Citibank, Schneider Electric, Visa, etc., so many of them in setting up their analytics competency, transformation, and digital solutions. From October 2018, he has taken charge as the global director of data science, robotics, and blockchain in Schilder Electric, where he has set up a big data based machine learning development and RPA and has delivered 50 plus AI ML RPA productionized solutions generating businesses of over 100 millions. It's an honor to have you, sir. And as we start the conversation today, it's there are so many youngsters out there, maybe at expert or all round, where they are so curious about these new buzzwords: AI, robotics, big data, all this blockchain. Some of these to a layman may not really be understandable, and not only a layman, even to students, it may be just surface understanding. What exactly, it would be great if you could highlight what exactly is the meaning of AI, artificial intelligence. I mean, where does it get its intelligence from?
Sure, Sham. So first of all, I think to answer this question, I have to, ask ourselves what is an intelligence, right? So we human beings, claim to have a lot of intelligence, right? That's what differentiates us from, the other animals. See, human beings, the intelligence actually means it's a collection of memory,
Yeah.
right? Memory, as well as, again, this memory can actually come from either learning or from different experiences of life. Okay, so there are two types of memories, genetic, which is, by birth we get it, and then, the memory which we get through different experiences, right? So this is what we call as an intelligence, right? So for example, if I know how to calculate 2 into 2, it actually is something I've experienced in my school and I remember it. Okay. So now what has happened in the last few decades is this particular experience of human beings also has left digital footprint.
Yeah.
For example, let's say, you walk, you go from your school to home every day. So you know the route because you have done it enough number of times, and you remember, or you have
Yeah.
experienced it. Now assume you are carrying a telephone or a mobile
Mm,
phone which has a GPS enabled into
mm,
it. It also knows at what time you travel, which path you take, because it has the
mm,
GPS,
mm,
right? So now your walk or a journey has left a digital
mm.
footprint, right? So now these digital footprints, which you generate almost every minute of the day, have become memories in the computer. Now, just like the way you use your memory to go from one place to another place, or do some calculation, or take some decision, exactly similar way computer can use this memory and behave intelligently, and that is what we call as artificial intelligence. It's an intelligence which is artificially created by the digital footprint or slash digital experiences.
Okay.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, we see so many places where, say, for example, you just now mentioned the mobile applications, the GPS, where artificial intelligence is being used. Uh,
Hmm.
is it is it that all these all these where the data is collected, so many of all, I mean, for this to work, isn't it that it is sometimes a risk that we are carrying, that we have got so much of personal data in the hands of these companies? Wouldn't it be a risk in the long run?
Yeah, it is certainly a risk and a threat, and also a scary situation. In fact, many countries now have started looking into this as a serious concern, and some countries have already gone ahead and made regulations around it. For example, if you go to any European countries, so there is a regulation called GDPR, which does not allow any organization, no matter what, how big it is, to use any personal information. Right? See, there is a definition of what is personal information. It could be your name, email, date of birth, telephone number, your family details. Any of that cannot be used by any organization whatsoever, right? So it's a law, it's a regulation. Similarly, even the new countries are looking at developing new laws and regulations around it. You're absolutely right. It is a threat. That is why when we give consent, when we download an app, when we start using a new application, when we give consent, we got to be at least cognizant of the fact that they're going to use this information. Okay, so at least that awareness has to be there.
Um, yeah,
And just to add to that before I move
yeah.
on, see, one may wonder, how is it a threat if they are just using my phone number or my name or email? But you got to understand, there are so many things one can do in the crime of identity theft. For example, let's say if I call call center of my mobile company, they would ask my, let's say, date of birth, my name, my email. So if somebody has all that information, it's easy for him to get into your account, right? Assume somebody has your PAN number, somebody has your Aadhaar card. There are so many things he can do on behalf of you, and he kind of even impersonate you, right? So that's the risk which people probably need to be aware of.
Yeah, even sometimes probably that's the reason why we have all these codes where we get double checking also be done, just in case probably that robots don't really impersonate and take over.
Correct.
Yeah,
No, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, companies are doing enough to prevent these frauds. But again, they sometimes they are one step ahead of us,
yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah,
right? Anyway, yeah. As long as we are aware, as long as we understand the risks, I think governments are also doing enough things to prevent these
yeah.
frauds. But yeah, time will tell how it will develop.
Yes. So coming back to this idea of artificial intelligence, um, now how relevant it is in this today's world? Is it almost like almost everything, almost anything that we can think of is done through artificial intelligence? What's the upper limit?
See, talking about relevance, see, today it has become as important as, let's say, electricity for us, right? One may actually wonder, why is it so or how is it so? I'm pretty sure most of you use Google,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right, to search. Actually, Google is nothing but it's a big data platform with a lot of AI capability into it. So that is how it is able to answer your questions in a fraction of a
hmm,
second, right? At least in developed countries, it is very difficult to live without Google
yeah,
today, right? So that is how it has become part of our life. Okay. Similarly, in developed countries, it can go to the extreme of self-driving cars. Like you go to North America today, there are cars which can drive on their own. It doesn't need drivers. So that's the other extreme where it has become so relevant to the day-to-day life, right? Similarly, you use Facebook, you use Amazon, you use, for example, it's nowadays it's very difficult to travel from any point A to B without Google Maps,
yes.
right? All of that is AI. It's just that we are not cognizant of it or we are not conscious of it. But behind all of that, it's nothing but AI and big data.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
no, I am.
So
Yeah,
you also touched upon the limit. I mean,
yes,
go ahead if you okay. Yeah. So see, what is the limit? In my view, again, see, human nature is such that we don't accept any limitation, right? So incrementally, organically, we keep exploring, we keep adding more and more to it. See, the only limit I can think of is probably we can never give a life to it,
yeah,
right? Everything else, in my view, is a possibility. Again, the limitation I would say is, same as limitation of how much we can imagine,
mm,
right? So our imagination is the limitation, I would
yeah.
say. But technically, everything is possible.
Okay. No, that was a very important statement that you made. We can't give life to that.
Correct.
Uh,
Because it's still a machine, end of the day.
Yes. Now, I was in chatting actually with a few of the students, and it was like they were wondering. It was just those young minds curious to know the things, and with all those wild thoughts. Some of them even were wondering whether the day will come where this artificial intelligence idea will be so much relevant that it will overpower us human beings in some form or other. And maybe some of the robots may even be used through artificial intelligence, and robots walking along the streets, and even we might have to have a separate law for them. These were the some of the thoughts that we had. Now it may look straight from some sci-fi film, but then whether anything that is very close to this also possible, sir, in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, so okay, let let me tell it in a very structured way. Um, See, end of the day, a robot is a robot or a AI-driven robot. We call it as cognitive robots. So they are machines meant to do a task, right? So
Yes.
will they overpower human beings? For sure, yes, for that task. For example, a motorbike can run faster than human beings, right? That does not necessarily mean motorbike is going to overtake human beings, right? See, all the machines, robots, AI-driven robots or whatever, they're meant to do a task. Okay, I don't think they can do beyond that task, right?
Okay.
In fact, now, for example, even in defense, they are looking at, in fact, Robo 2 movie covered some of it to some extent, the Rajnikant's movie. So, yeah, I mean, defense is looking at these robots as a potential soldiers, right? Again, no, they are all, as I said, meant to do a task, whereas human beings does not have a limitation of what they can do, right?
Yeah.
So if humans can produce another human using AI, that's a dream. I don't think that would happen. As I said, that would mean we need to give life to another machine, which may not be possible. But we can make it do whatever task we want him to or her to do as a
Yeah.
robot.
Okay. Okay. Because I am from actually math background, uh, there are many theorems. There were many where the proof of the theorem we don't still have. Fermat's last theorem, for example, it took more than 350 years to be proved. It was only in 1995 that it was done, proof. Riemann's hypothesis, even now we don't have a proof for that. Whether artificial intelligence idea in some form or other, could it be of some use for the proof of things like this, sir? Whether it really is possible?
Yeah, certainly possible. See, end of the day, AI is all about correlation, right? Assume you have a theorem and you have the reality, right? So AI has a concept called correlation or association analysis. Okay. So to prove a theorem, in fact, we do this all the time. We call it proof of concept,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
Uh, POE. These are terms within what we do in statistics. So basically, yes, you can use the data available to correlate a hypothesis against reality, and AI can pretty much prove those and tell you whether the hypothesis is true or not.
okay. Sir, we have a question actually from one of our viewers, Praveen Mudigere. He's asking, sir, you have taken up leadership roles in many big organizations. How do you take decisions that may impact the success or failure of an important project? How do we know if the decision we make is right or not?
Okay. Yeah, I think in our job, at least every day we make decisions because see what we do today or what I decide today may influence 80 to 1 lakh people,
Yeah,
right? So that's the kind of role we will be handling. So every day we face this dilemma, but again, see, we do certain things to mitigate these risks, right? So when we start a project or when we embark on any new journey, it goes through a certain methodology or a process, right? For example, we first, let's say we have an idea, we do something called as proof of concept, where we just try it in a very limited scope,
yeah,
and then we do a study called feasibility study, and then in a very incremental way we deploy things. We do not go on big bang one day change the system, right? So this incremental process oriented development cycle gives us enough time to change directions as needed, right? So no, while decision is made today, but the implementation takes a cycle and its own time before it gets a reality or becomes a reality, right? Yeah, and again, most of our decisions are again data driven, right? In a large organization like ours, where we have like 200,000 kind of employees and worldwide presence, very difficult for us to make decisions without data. So we leverage the data, we leverage artificial intelligence to help us make right
Okay.
decisions. Right? That's one way of mitigating the
Hmm.
risks or the impact. Yeah, I
Yeah,
hope I
yeah, yeah.
answered his question.
Sir, we move on to one more idea of robotics. Now,
Mhm.
maybe around 10, 15 years earlier, the idea of robotics was something that was made to look like a human, maybe carrying some basic tasks. I understand now things have evolved a lot. At this stage, what exactly is a robot? What is the stage of life in the life stage of robot? Where it has reached? How do they look like now?
Yeah. So I think first thing I want to clarify is, see, there are two types of robots. See, one we call as industrial
Okay.
robots, which are, what you just explained,
Yeah.
human looking like, or some kind of a machinery which is
Yes.
physical, right? It has like a, arms or forks or whatever, right? See, the other type of robots is what we refer to as software robots. These are not visible.
Okay.
These are robots which would sit in a server or your
Okay.
computer. And they would do a lot of things which otherwise humans have to do in the computer.
Yeah.
So just give you example. Let's say all your answer papers are in the digital form or in the computer. Instead of you doing the valuation, you can have a robot to do the same
Mm.
valuation, right? Because you have the answers in the digital
Yeah.
form, you have the questions, the robots can have some
Mm.
intelligence to tell whether the answer is right or
Mm.
wrong. So, like this, what you can probably do in a day, it can do in a
Mm.
minute,
Mm.
right? So, these are called as software
Okay.
robots.
So even that some of these automatically we get those answers. Maybe it is EVA, HDFC, or all those are part of robots only, I guess then.
Absolutely. In fact, see, in my company, in our
Mm.
company, now we have close to hundreds of
Mm.
robots. So, which are equal to, like, I would say, 300
Mm.
employees, right? Because the good
Yeah.
thing about robots, they work 24 bar 7, 365 days.
Okay.
So, every bot is equal to like 3 employees,
Okay.
right? So, any job which can be done using a computer can be done by these bots. So, most of the back office work, whether it's payroll processing, whether it's financial claims, anything which is in the digital form can be automated. In fact, we call this as hyper automation,
Mm.
wherein we use the software bots and the intelligence to automate these tasks.
Okay. Sir, we have one more question actually from Arjun Gowda from Bijapur. And he is asking, sir, I want to create a robot which can help elderly people in daily challenges, which can take care of them like a son or a daughter. To do this, what I need to study, from where I need to start working on it.
See, this is more of a bit of a the mechanical side, which is not my expertise.
Okay.
But again, see, when we talk about robots, again, people think it's a human being which can do all the tasks which humans can do, right? See, for example, taking care of an elderly does not just mean one task. It's a multitask, which would need multiple things to be done at different times of the day, right? So again, you got to be thinking of practicality here in the sense, is a robot is going to be more cost effective to do this job, or probably hiring a human being to do this job, right? See, when we talk about robots, we always need to be cognizant of the cost associated with it, right? So yeah, but practically it can be done, technically it can be done. Again, if you want to create a mechanical robot, I'm pretty sure there are enough courses or information available in the internet. I mean, that's not my expertise, but I can certainly, if you are interested, Arjun, I can connect you to the experts, and you can probably, start a small pilot.
I hope that.
Maybe what would be useful in India is a robot which can cook for you, because that's where majority of the time is
Yes.
spent at home, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm sure these will become reality very
Yeah.
soon. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of time.
I mean, would it be possible that your robot would self-learn, sir? Like you just said, it will
Yeah.
cook. I mean, maybe with the time, it
Yes.
becomes a better cook, and maybe with the
I'll
time.
tell you how it will be made to
Okay.
learn. Assume it makes upma
Okay.
today, right? And you give rating good, bad,
Okay.
ugly.
Yeah.
You as a eater, and then next day it would improve,
Okay. Yes.
right? So that's what machine learning is all about. It takes constant feedback, continuous feedback from the consumers, and then it keeps improving.
So the experience makes man perfect, they say. So it would be applicable for robots also then. Mm.
Absolutely. That's why I use the word intelligence is nothing but
Okay.
experiences,
Yeah.
right? And more you practice, more you get feedback, you improve. Similarly, machines do the same.
Sir, we have one more question. This is from Sudha Haledurga. And she is asking, creating a robot and creating artificial intelligence, what is the difference?
See, robot is actually it's an see, we got to understand the difference between an automation and artificial intelligence. Automation is something which is being done human, you just automate it to be done by a machine, right? Just you want XYZ to be done, automation is automating that or using machine to do XYZ. Okay. Whereas AI is using intelligence to do probably different things as needed, as required at that point in time, right? One is hard work, another one is smart work, if I have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
differentiate. So why I say that is, see, hard work is just doing what is
Yeah.
given to you. Smart work is doing what is
Mm,
right, right? So that's the difference. So what is right, there is an intelligence. Doing it as it is,
mm,
automation. So robot is meant to do the automation. AI is meant to do the right things at that point in time. Now you're actually looking at combination of
mm.
these two. Now there are robots which have AI capability in it.
Okay,
In fact, actually, see, most of the Western world now there are robotic pets. They don't now go for the living dogs
okay.
or puppies. They use. In fact, in Japan, it's very popular. They have these robotic dogs as pets, and they do pretty much everything just like a dog. And you don't need to feed them nothing, and they are just there. They even respond to your emotions. They charge themselves. I think it's a crazy world out
Yeah, I
there.
was about to ask you before you use that word, but would the emotion still be there, sir?
Again, emotions is nothing but a training. it's
Okay,
it's like what you train them. For example, uh, if you smile, you program it as you being happy,
okay.
right? If you have a sad face, that means you are sad. So it's more of teaching them the different behaviors of human beings, the look and feel of it. Again, if you remove the look and feel, if you remove the input and output, probably it doesn't have any other sense,
Yeah,
right? See, where does human emotions come from? Through our senses,
yes.
right? If there is anything which is beyond sense, obviously machines can't, react to those emotions.
Yeah. Here is Shreyang Patil from Belgaum asking, is it possible to create a robot by one individual or whether you need a team for that?
So again, if you are looking at a mechanical robot, uh, see, one person or a team is a matter of time, right? If
Yeah.
there is one person, it may take 2 years to do it. If you have 10%, it may take 1 month, right?
Mm,
So if you are asking if they need multiple skills, obviously yes, because
mm,
when you talk about any machine for that matter, it's like asking, can I build Can one person build a car?
mm,
Probably no, right?
mm.
Because it has different components, it has different machineries, mechanics. But is it impossible? Probably no. One person can learn and take 100 years and still do it,
Yeah.
right? So, but yeah, robotics as a topic has got multiple subjects in it, right? It has got electronics, it has got mechanics, it has got even probably chemistry into it. I'm pretty sure it's a combination of different subjects. So you may need different subject matter experts. Again, if you respect the time, if there is no time limit, one person can still do it.
So for someone who is, say, let us say in first PUC now, or say second PUC, if in the future he thinks that he wants to get into robotics, what area he should be probably focusing upon right now? Maybe what subject?
Sure, sure, sure. See, if you are looking at, let's say, software robots, one thing you can probably start doing is learning any programming language. I'm pretty sure it's part of your curriculum as well. Something like a Python or a, .NET or any of these languages. Because at the end of the day, you want to create a software robot, the same languages will be used, right? Maybe by the time you graduate, there may be easier tools to develop a robot because every month we see a new development in these areas. By the time you graduate, maybe there are, do it yourself kind of kits which would help you build a robot in 1 hour,
Okay.
right? So that day may come. But talking about the mechanical robots, I think one good place to start, which I encourage all of you, is to even in India. Again, I have not explored much. At least in the Western world, we had these. You can buy a do-it-yourself kit. Like you can go to Amazon.com or .in and search for DIY, do-it-yourself robotic
Okay.
kit. They give you some kits where you can assemble. You don't necessarily create it from the
Mm,
scratch, but you kind of do the assembly of
mm.
different parts. And also you can program yourself the way you want robot to behave, right? So this would help you get started. This will help you get more curious about how the robots, get developed, why they behave the way they behave. I think that can be a very good start to start with a DIY
Okay.
kit.
One more thing, sir. Say somebody who is in PU now, once he is done with his, let us suppose, graduation, BE, maybe
Mhm,
another 5 6 years it will take. Now,
mhm,
by that time, whether this will still be a in thing, say artificial intelligence
mhm.
or robotics, is it here to stay?
Yeah. See, in fact, see if you look at the way things have evolved in the last century. I think till about 80s we had industry
Hmm,
revolution, right? And obviously industry has got stabilized, they got matured and they wanted to scale. Obviously in any business it's all about scaling and growing, right? So then 80s started the IT revolution, right? Because they wanted to automate, the business processes so that they can scale to bigger heights and become global companies and become, number one or whatever in their sector. So then, so entire 90s and 2000 was in IT revolution. So 2010 onwards, we started this whole journey of artificial intelligence. While it was there, but it wasn't very prominent, right? So 2010 onwards, the timing was just right because we were generating enough data. There was enough communication channels. We had the smartphone by then. So that's when the AI journey started. So in my view, it has got a long way before we kind of say we are digitally satisfied, we as human beings. So maybe another 20 years easily. In fact, as per prediction, as per the forecast of, let's say, even NASCOM, which is our IT
hmm,
body in India, as per them, by 2027 our digital sector will probably be 5 times the current IT industry size. So, for example, current IT industry, I think, is about 200 billion or so, with I think around 5 million employees. The same would probably grow 3 times by 2027. So that's the kind of size you are looking at. So most of you, let's say you graduate in when 2025, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
26, something like that. By then you will probably at the peak of AI, and that is the right time, best time for you to get into. In fact, that's why my suggestion for most of you is to prepare now. Now is your time to get yourself ready for that peak so that when you get into the industry, you are well equipped to contribute more to the industry and lead some of these initiatives in the corporations as well as startups or whatever else you
Yeah.
want to do.
Um, would you suggest them to, let us say, soon after PUC, any particular branch, if at all they were interested in, say, robotics or AI? If you were to, which one it would be, sir?
See again, see my perception or my thought about AI is going to be applicable in every field. In the sense, see, there was a day when laptops were only meant for software professionals. But today, there is no job
Yeah.
without a laptop, right? Every job, be you are a banker, be you are a doctor, be you are an investment professional, you
Yeah.
need a laptop, at least a
Mm.
smartphone, right? See, that is how relevant AI is going to be in different sectors. So, do not think that you need to only get into an AI branch to do AI. No, you can be a mechanical engineer and bring AI into that. You can be an electrical engineer, you can bring AI into that. In fact, Schneider Electric is an energy management
Mm.
company, and our majority of our actually revenue comes from energy management. And digitization is just an enabler
Okay.
to that, right? So my suggestion, do not worry which branch you get into. AI and robotic process automation is going to be applicable in every field you're going to get into, right? So that is why it's like a common thing. It's like your
Mm.
calculator. It's like your laptop. Wherever you go, it will still
Yeah.
be relevant. So it's good for you to learn irrespective of where
Mm.
you go. Even if you get into, let's say,
Mm.
medical, if you're going to become a doctor, it's still relevant for you because today healthcare industry uses AI more than anybody else. The reason why COVID vaccine was possible in a short span of time is because of
Okay.
AI, because they could, we call it as augmented reality. They could generate more scenarios and
Mm.
tests artificially than really testing it
Mm.
on
Mm.
people, right? So the applications of AI are wide, it does not restrict itself to any particular branch. So my suggestion, choose any branch of your interest, and AI is something you can apply anywhere.
And it will be still relevant. Now, just one more, yeah,
Very
just
relevant.
one more point, sir. It's almost 2 decades that you are into this. You might have seen so many ups and downs in so many different forms of in your career in different forms. What were the difficulties that you faced? How did you overcome? Because that could help probably some of our viewers to take those right decisions as and when they come across similar situations. Could you please highlight some of them?
I mean, when you say difficulties, you're talking about
I'm
technically
I'm
or in
talk I'm
general
talking about
life?
technically, sir, because digitally there are so many changes. Continuously there are changes that are happening. So how do you adjust? How do you adjust to those changes?
See, again, for one to continuously, be relevant in this industry, learning is very important. And it's not that learning ends when you get out of the college or when you graduate from a best school. See, the learning is a continuous process. Okay. Again, learning is not necessarily, you need to read books. You need to develop this habit of curiosity, being curious about everything. And, you got to be passionate of what you want to do. For example, let's say you take up a project in any organization, and the project has a certain objective. The project is meant to improve certain things, right? So every project you have to take it as a challenge, and then learn whatever is required for that challenge, and then contribute and succeed. Again, not everything may succeed. uh, there are things which would probably go out of control. Sometimes you may not get the desired results, but again, in my view, everything is learning. See, in not only in digital, in any aspect, there is nothing called failure, right? There's nothing called, I mean, I don't know why even that word exists, because it's very negative, and there's nothing called as failure, because everything leads to a next step or a different direction, right? So let's say you want to go from Bangalore to Mumbai, and you, let's say, have a flat tire in between. That does not necessarily mean failure. Maybe you last half an hour because you have a flat tire, but you can always get a new tire and keep going. And that's how I see it as, these are, yeah, sometimes you bet on a wrong technology, doesn't work the way you wanted it to work. You always have opportunity to come back, correct yourself, and keep moving, right? So that's what I would suggest. Continuous learning would help, staying curious would help, and keep learning. I think that's what it takes.
Yeah, one more expertise of yours is in big data. Can you throw some light on that, sir?
Yeah. Yeah. See, big data, as the name says, the word big is basically an adjective used to emphasize the size of data, right? See, you see, where is this data generated? There are many sources of data. So one major source today is your mobile phones, right? And there are other sources like software systems, including the social media, the digital media, like news and other things. So there is a huge amount of data being generated. So just to give you a perspective, see, India has about what, a billion plus population, right? And most of us actually have access to 1 GB of data
Yeah,
every day, right? Imagine a billion into GB every day. A GB is nothing but, just to give you perspective, it's the size of a HD movie, high
okay.
definition movie. So what that means, every day we are generating 1 billion worth of movies worth of data and storing it in the server. You can
Yeah,
imagine 1 billion is actually,
true.
100
Yeah,
crores. 100 crores movie being stored in server every
yeah.
single day. Now, how do you handle such data? Very difficult, because this is exactly what we mean by big data, and managing it is big data
Hmm.
technologies, right? So imagine if Google has to give you sub-second response for any question you ask. It deals with probably, I don't know, infinite GBs of
Yeah.
data in it, right? So managing this data is not easy. It needs a very sophisticated tool and technology to cater to
Yeah.
these needs. While AI is like, the face of it, behind AI, there is a big data there.
So where do they, I mean, store this, sir? You said it is such a big collection of data. Where exactly do they store this?
See, these are all stored in what we call as data centers. So what they do, they basically, for example, company like
Hmm.
Google, they make data centers across the world. In fact, Microsoft even attempted creating data centers under the ocean,
Okay.
so that it's
Safe.
safe and secure from any kind of a natural calamity. So these are physically stored in different data centers in different parts of the world. So it's a very complex structure. They want to, have data replicated so that if there is a disaster in
Yeah.
one side, they can always recover from another place. So it's a very complex data structure and data centers out there which stores all this
Mm-hmm.
data. And that is what actually precisely we call it as big
Okay.
data.
Now,
See, just to give you, again, I may be very simplifying this, but just to give you a perspective, the way big data is structured is data is divided into different segments, and then there is kind of a table of index,
okay.
which exactly tells you if you want this data, you go
Okay.
to this particular
Okay.
server. We call them
Hmm.
nodes actually. So it's like, maybe if I have to simplify, it's like your
Okay.
library. So in library, if you want to search for a particular book, you have divided them into
Yes.
fiction,
Yes.
non-fiction, science, social, blah, blah, blah. Similarly, data is divided into different categories, and then there is a table of
Okay.
index, which we call as key value
Hmm.
pair. There is a key for every particular
Hmm.
segment, and there is a key value pair which leads to a particular segment of the data structure or a data
Hmm.
center that makes the entire query of the data
Hmm.
very fast. Again, it gets very
Yeah.
technical. I
Yeah.
don't know how many of
Yeah.
you would be
It may be a little
appreciating
difficult
it.
for a
Yeah.
layman actually. Sir, also one more thing. I mean, all this collection of data, after all, at the end has to give some revenue for the company. Otherwise, they may not
Yeah.
really be interested in doing that. How do they
Yes.
monetize that? I mean, we have heard this data is the new oil. How
New
new
gold or
oil?
new oil. Yeah.
How do they monetize this?
See, it's different companies have different strategy to monetize data. Just to give you example, see, for example, Google monetizes data using
Okay.
advertisements, right? So every advertisement you
Hmm.
see in Google page
Hmm.
makes them money. Facebook, let's say, again another digital company, they makes money by, again, advertisements, right? So that's why it's called social media. Similarly, if you take company like ours,
Okay.
we use it to enhance our customer experience. It may not be a direct revenue, but we try to satisfy our customers by giving them additional better user experiences. For example, see, we have, let's say, we have a meter,
Okay.
or maybe I'll take some simple example. Nowadays, cars, every car is coming with internet
Yeah.
abilities,
Yes.
right? So that's nothing but
Hmm.
again data, right? So now, how are they making money? They're able to sell more
Hmm.
cars by giving
Hmm.
these features, right? So we call that as an indirect revenue by enhancing user experience or consumer
Yeah.
experience, right? And some companies are making product out of it, right? For example,
Hmm.
Alexa from Amazon is a product which leverages AI technology, and it's a an offer like a proper product, and they make revenue out of it. So in that sense, every organization have a different strategy to monetize data.
Yeah. You spoke of Alexa, sir. Uh, Again, the information that these devices collect, they will be extremely personal and sensitive. So the chances of it leaking out and then going out, that is always there.
Mhm.
So what measures these companies take to prevent this?
See, I think we touched upon this earlier
Yeah,
also on the
yeah,
cybersecurity issue. See, technically, companies like Amazon, for example, or Apple, Apple has Siri, and Amazon has got Alexa, and Google has got, I don't know, something else. So all of them, have invested huge in making our data secure.
yep,
Okay. So, in fact, the number of incidents which have happened, if you look at the last 10 years, at least in these three or four large companies, is very,
Mm,
very minimal.
mm.
So that only means that
We are
they are doing everything they can to protect our privacy, and every technical tool has been leveraged to do this. But there is always, you know, some catastrophe which can change this, and that is where there are multiple layers of now rules being added, including the regulations and laws around it, right? Which every organization will have
yeah.
to comply.
So just one question we have from Rudra from Bagalkot. And he is saying, I am studying PUC first year. When I finish medical, it will be 8 to 10 years more. Should I be scared of AI? Is that will eat up my job? What if AI takes up my job after spending so many years in studies?
See, this is one question I get, almost everywhere. See, people are, thinking this is going to take away a lot of jobs. See, one thing we got to understand, every revolution, be it industry or IT or digital revolution now, jobs may not be lost, but they may, I call it as, they may shift it to another sector, right? For example, today somebody making machines, tomorrow may get into an IT job. All right. Somebody today doing IT may get into a digital job. So, no revolution ever has eaten away jobs. Rather, they have given new jobs. In fact, we call it as
Mm,
cannibalization. One new revolution may eat up the jobs of old, but it has given
yeah,
jobs to the new. What that means? See, for one to still have a job, they need to just
mm,
upskill themselves, right? So coming to your question of, will doctors have job or no? In my view, that job will still be there, and it will be a lot more impactful because they will be
yeah,
assisted by robots. In fact, today, if there is a best doctor, let's say in India, and if there is a patient in US, there are still limitations how we can
mm,
service them. But by the time you graduate, sitting here, you can operate someone in US using a robot or an artificial intelligence, right? So you're basically enhancing your ability to service people with these. So I do not see this as a threat. I would rather see this as a complementary, especially for Indians, because we are still, the most cost
yeah.
effective country. And if we are assisted with these capabilities, I think we become almost
Yeah.
unstoppable.
I remember first time when WhatsApp kind of app was introduced, a doctor was able to see his patient's report from a distance, and he was able to give the
Yeah,
necessary medicines, suggest them, and save a life. It became a big news during that time.
yeah. No, trust me, with things like virtual reality, augmented reality, you can literally
Yeah,
do anything, even physical aspect sitting in
yeah,
another place. Right? In fact, COVID was a great example. While everybody was at home, most of the world moved on. I mean, it didn't stop.
correct.
Right? Thanks to the digital tools and technologies which
Yeah.
enabled that.
So, just coming back to these different kind of jobs that we may have, the word data scientist or data engineer, I think these
Mhm.
things are of, I mean, they were probably not as relevant earlier, maybe a decade earlier, maybe with my limited knowledge I'm telling, but right now they are. So, what exactly do they mean, sir? What is the difference between them?
See, a data engineer is all about managing big data,
Okay.
right? You have a huge data, It has to be stored somewhere. It has to be managed. It has to be transformed in the way the data scientist wants. Think of data engineer as a person who enables data for the data scientist, right? So data scientist is a consumer of data. Data engineer is an enabler of data.
Yeah, okay. Sir, here is one question. Rohan from Bangalore. Being very focused in the class, was it part of your smart work? Was it whether I think it is Rohan from Bangalore who is asking this, where you were excelling in studies throughout, uh, how was it uh, during your study days? He is curious to know your study habits and
Yeah. See, I studied in a government school till about 10th actually. It was in a rural area, Hosadurga, that's where I studied. And then I studied in Tumkur, my PUC. One thing which I, I think which helped me in the studies is that I was very engaging in the class. It's not that I was very studious, but rather I was very engaging. I was very curious about everything, to be honest. So I would ask a lot of questions to our lecturers or teachers that would make me remember things. In fact, I still remember I after every day of class I would come home and write everything what I read that day,
okay.
or what I was taught that day. So I would just come and sit and write in 2 pages. I wouldn't study open book, nothing. Just come, download
Yeah,
whatever I learned that day. That kind of helped me remember. Yeah, I kind of probably, yeah, I would say did well in my schools. I think that curiosity
yeah,
really helped me. I don't think there was
yeah.
anything else.
Curiosity plus hard work. Sir, there is one more question. It's from Savita SR. As we are seeing extensive application of AI in all areas of life, what will be the impact on human intelligence and evolution?
So it's interesting. I think there are a lot of studies on this actually. See, the one side of the science says that it will make humans stupid because now machines are doing everything, humans are just using them. On the other side, the science says that now that AI is taking care of all the mundane and repeat jobs, humans can do better value added work, right? So there are two theories. Probably we will see mix of those. Some people will become probably just users of this technology and maybe less intelligent. The other sector of people may enhance their intelligence further and do more value added
Yeah.
things in life. So it's going to be
Yeah.
mix.
There is one question from Akshay Jain, and he is asking, can we shift towards autopilot, automation, self-driving cars in India, and how safe will it be?
Actually, yeah, in US it's already a reality. Self-driving cars are out there on the streets, and they have proven to be very, very safe. In fact, they are safer than human driving. That's what they are proving. Will it come to India? In my view, I think it may still be a distant reality for us, mainly because we still are not as structured as Western world when it comes to the discipline of our roads and science and everything else. So it may take much longer before it becomes a reality. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 10
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
So there is one more question from Vallabh Joshi, and he is asking, what's the future of cryptocurrency?
Hmm. Yeah, I think only time will have to tell. But on a logical sense, I think it has a future because now you see that so far US currency was very dominant, right? And it was an international currency as well. Now a lot of countries are raising this question of why US currency has to be international currency, right? So if from that angle, cryptocurrency is completely independent of any country, sits on its own, it's completely unbiased, and it has a lot of good features like, uh, transparency, traceability, immutability, blah blah blah, which will help us ensure fair transactions. So it, in my view, there is a very high possibility that a cryptocurrency can become an international currency. But again, there's a lot politics out
Yes,
there, things
yes,
can
yes,
change.
and lots.
It's very a political
Yes, yes,
decision, not
and
just a
yeah,
technical decision.
lots of security issues also surrounding that, transparency issues as well with cryptocurrency.
No, it's much
Okay,
safer than our
okay.
normal currency, because in normal currency, what US does, rest of the world doesn't get to know. Let's say if they are printing more papers, very difficult to, somebody to even
Okay,
investigate that.
okay.
But when it comes to cryptocurrency, everything is in an open ledger. Anybody can see, investigate whatever they want to investigate. So it's a lot more safer. That's why you may have seen in the last 2 3 months, the value
Yes,
of cryptocurrency has probably gone
yes,
4 or 5 or maybe
yeah.
10 times, because as long as US elections were there, I think there was a little faith or low faith, I would say, in cryptocurrency. But with the new leadership, I think there's a lot
Okay.
more faith.
So, one more question here from Shashank Desai. Can AI help
Mhm.
farmers to be more productive in any way?
Yeah. In fact, agriculture sector is picking up very fast, leveraging AI. In fact, there are many startups who are working on how to enable our farmers with AI and be more cost effective, produce more, and also economically gain from it. One example is, um, see, for example, AI can help quality of, um, let's say, this was done, one case study done in South Africa. For every wine they
Mm,
produce, they collected the data of quality of
mm,
the grapes, right? So now they exactly can correlate quality of wine to what is the chemical composition of grapes when they are younger. So now they are leveraging that to seed a particular type of grape so that they get exactly the same type of wine
mm.
what they want. Right? So that's one thing. Again, there are a lot of things happening, even in terms of the way the transportation works, the logistics works, the way, um, even the hybridization of seeds, the clinical research of the seeds, everything is being looked at it from
Yeah.
AI
So
perspective.
how far you probably it will be, sir, before it will be implemented here in India in a more effective way from farmers' point of view?
It's already happening. Again, nothing will change overnight. Happening in a very
Mm,
incremental way. For example, in Karnataka, there are many startups are already
mm.
on the field. In fact, they have these
Okay.
drones now. For example, drones monitor the field in terms of the soil quantity, the water content, everything, and they keep reporting to the central location, so they can suggest what kind of, let's say, fertilizer needs to be used at
Yeah.
that point in time. So there is already a
Mm.
lot being done. But again, country like India, we got to think of
Yes.
cost effectiveness. So that is where I think all of you, most of you, once you graduate, your job should be to make AI cost effective. Today
Mm.
it is still expensive. It should be as cost effective like cell phones today. See, cell phone, why it has become viral is mainly because
Yes.
it's affordable. If cell phones were, let's say, 1 lakh rupee, or if a telephone call or a mobile call would cost you, let's say, 100 rupees,
Yeah.
nobody would buy it. Today, people can buy because it's affordable. Similarly, If technology becomes affordable, everybody can use it, especially in the agricultural sector, because it's very economically
Yeah.
sensitive
I
sector.
remember around 15 years earlier, maybe Samsung came with these advertisements saying next is mobile. And
Yeah.
now probably everybody, as you said, is getting an easy access into mobile. Similarly, this AI also maybe sometime in the future may happen.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah, in fact, many of your students may not remember or probably not know. There was a day when incoming
yes,
was charged in India, and people used to disconnect and call from a
yes,
public
yes, yes,
telephone booth
true.
back, right? Because it
Yes,
wasn't affordable.
till in fact, even till Reliance made those revolutionary changes, yeah, it was still
Correct.
relevant for the last maybe 1 year. Now, any message that you would want to give to our young minds, sir, from the perspective of how they should be studying, what they should be expecting from the field of AI, robotics in the future, what would be your message to them?
See, first thing I would like to say that they are lucky to be part of this generation because they are straight getting into a cutting edge technology which is probably at its peak. So jobs will be there for all of them. And also more than jobs, there is a ecosystem which is getting created for them, be it the startups, be it the the kind of mentorships companies are providing. I think it's going to be a slightly different world to them what we
Yes,
have seen. It's going to be a lot more conducive for them to contribute more, right? However, there is
yeah,
also a competition, right? So what students can do to prepare themselves is one thing you all need to understand going forward, the nature of job is not necessarily
yeah,
what is today. In the sense, it won't be you get a job and you work with the company for 10 years
mm,
and then you retire or something like that.
mm,
It won't be like that. It will be a lot more
mm,
crowdsourced. What I mean by that is people will be hired
mm,
based on a project. Project to project, you may want to pick different
mm,
companies or,
mm,
different set of people. So I would like you all to take a look at crowdsourcing platforms, such as, for example, there is a platform called
okay,
Topcoder, Topcoder, Topcoder. It's actually a
okay,
Wipro company. So where you can register yourself as a programming person, companies give you projects there, which you
mm,
can develop, and you
mm,
can make money out of it. Similarly, there is another
mm,
platform called Kaggle, which is a Microsoft platform. GitHub is Microsoft
okay,
platform, not the Kaggle. So all these platforms you can be actively participate. In fact, make money,
okay,
get ready. In fact, when you go to seek job in the future, they're not going to look at which university you have studies or how much
okay,
marks you have got. In fact, that's going to change. They will look for your contribution in
okay,
these platforms. For example, if they don't see you as an active contributor in, let's say, GitHub, they think you don't have
yeah,
practical experience. So it's very important for all of you to get there, be active, stay curious of
yeah.
what's happening around you.
So the last point, actually, I came to know that you are even a marathon runner. Tell us, can you please
Yes,
tell something about that, sir?
I started running, I think, in 2016 or so. It's been about 4 years or so I've been running. So every day I run about 10 kilometers, at least 9 to 10 kilometers. It kind of, helps
That's a
me
staggering. Every day
relax
10.
my mind.
Okay,
It's more of a meditation for me, actually. Yeah, it's more of a meditation
okay,
than a physical exercise. And I like to wake up early in the morning. It gives me a lot of personal time because morning
okay,
you don't get any calls, you're not disturbed. So it's a very personal
yeah,
me time, I would say. It helps me think of everything around me and get some clarity. So yeah,
yeah,
it's
it
more of a
really
meditation for
is.
me. And I suggest youngsters, in fact, again, one thing I probably forgot to tell them, apart from all this technology, job, forget all that. I think you should also focus on physical fitness. So if you are not physically fit, you may be from the best university, you may be having the best grades, it's not going to help you. And your generation, it's very unfortunate, are probably not as healthy as your previous
Yes.
generations, right? Maybe because of, the lifestyle, the quality of food and everything else. So I think you should pay a lot more
Yes.
attention on the
Thank
fitness.
you, sir. That was great listening to you. That would be complementing wonderfully that 9 to 10 kilometers every day that you would be running. That's really amazing to hear. And I'm sure that all these resources that you have given to our students, I'm 100% sure that they would have benefited from that. It was great having you. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much, Sam, and all the best to your students. Thanks to
Thank you. Thank
expert
you,
as
sir.
well. Thank you very much.
That's
So I end the call,
yes,
Sham.
sir.
Okay,
One
thank
second,
you.
sir.
Bye bye. Oh, should I wait? Okay.
Um, yes, dear students, it was a very fruitful, hopefully, listening to one of the very eminent personality in the field of digital science. His experience, his knowledge, and all of that would help us a great deal. And I'm sure that what he said, maybe 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, it would be probably the best time to be in the field of AI, in the field of robotics. That should give us so much of hope, and probably it's the best time being a student. Thank you so much for listening. All the best. Thank you.